Bitrise is a mobile CI/CD platform. And what that means is that it's a platform for testing and developing mobile apps. And it helps large groups of developers work together on their applications. We are currently around 250 employees, and we are operating fully remotely with employees all over the world. Bitrise, like many other startups, we're doing most of the planning in spreadsheets. We ran into the natural limitations that has when the company is growing. That is, we wanted to have better control of the different versions of our planning, fundamentally be able to make more versions, make more scenarios of the plan, and basically model more versions of the future. That's the main reason why we sought out a planning tool, and that's what brought us to Pigment. The reason that I love working with Pigment is flexibility. That is really the core of it. Unlike other planning tools, you start building out little by little. You don't have a full model laid out that you then fill in. Pigment is like a tree. You start with a few small components and then you branch out into more and more use cases where you can leverage the things that you have already built in the beginning to make it able to do more and more things over time. Our first use case is sales capacity and headcount planning. Those two things are very closely connected. What we wanted to be able to model is how our sales capacity changes when we hire new people, when people leave the company, or when people move into different roles. For most of our employees, they have relatively long sales cycles. So when you hire new people, it takes some time for them to ramp up. And likewise, when you lose people, you lose the capacity straight away. So to being able to model all those changes in capacity over time and to make sure that you hire the right headcount in advance and anticipate future growth or future attrition on the team or any sort of future events that you expect to come up, that's really the main challenge. You're able to do far more scenarios with a smaller group of people. In a spreadsheet-based model, you can do 10 different scenarios over the course of your planning cycle in the end of the year. Pigment, you can do 30 instead because it's much faster to model different types of scenarios. So it multiplies the effect of each person on the sales ops team when it comes to the planning cycle. Another aspect, especially in startups when we're using Pigment, is that your structure changes a lot from year to year. One year you can have 2 regions and 4 territories. And then the following year you may want to divide the world into 3 regions with 3 segments each and with 3 territories in each of those. So being able to change the structure of the model, not only the size of the teams that you have, is something that is relatively easy to do in Pigment. In the recent market downturn, we've had a little bit less to do in terms of what happens if we hire 10 people in this area or 10 people in that area, and more to do with how we manage our expenses. And one of the things that we looked at is how can we use our tools to do multiple different things. Pigment is a great example of that. It's a planning tool, it's an analytics tool, it can be a compensation tool, it can be almost anything that you want it to be. So that has enabled us to save money in other areas. So far in our implementation, we've used 2 main sources of data. One is our roster of hires, and then the second one is Salesforce, where we connect directly to Pigment, able to pull in our opportunities every day so that we have an up-to-date view on how we are performing and how every single salesperson is doing. Previously, in the spreadsheet-based model, of course, that was a manual process of exporting the data, putting it into the spreadsheet and then refreshing it over and over again. That import process is handled automatically in Pigment. From my personal perspective, inside the sales ops team, one of the things that Pigment has done for us is it's cut down a lot on the time that we spend on regular reporting each quarter, because we can have graphs, we can have tables set up with things that we need to track, particularly around how people are performing when they're ramping, how each of the teams are achieving their goals. It's hard to keep track of in a spreadsheet, and you have to do a lot of validation, whereas Pigment does it for us. So it's it saved my time in terms of creating those quarterly reporting sets. My favorite feature in Pigment is the scenario feature. And the reason that I love that is because we can keep track of all the changes we do, all the different iterations of our planning. And because it's very easy to clone a specific version of our planning and then make small changes to that rather than starting over completely. And then lastly, because you can give contributors their own scenarios to play with without breaking the main scenarios that we've been creating in the sales ops team. Flexibility, flexibility, and flexibility.